The Chinese regime is saying Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh's death may destabilize the region. Russia says those responsible for his death must be aware of dangerous consequences that will follow. And Cuba says the killing is an infringement on Iranian sovereignty. For a perspective on this, we invite Zvika Klein, the editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post. Good afternoon to you, Zvika. Do the words from China, Russia, and Cuba shape the narrative around Israel as it fends itself from terrorists?
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at this as an escalation is a bit problematic, because at the end of the day, Ismail Haniyeh is on the terrorist list of the United States and of Western countries. So it's kind of, looking at the assassination of someone, at that level as a terrorist who's recognized as such, is kind of taking the whole region and looking at it from a very narrow lens.
Understood. And Senator Marco Rubio says that the world is safer with people like Haniyeh no longer around, because Haniyeh was involved with the killing of innocent civilians, and he vowed to do it again. Egypt, Jordan, Qatar, and Turkey, and other Middle Eastern countries, they've condemned Haniyeh's killing. Would this new pressure that's been put on Israel by these countries following his death change anything or not?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, we can't ignore the fact that Ismail Haniyeh was the guy, the man in the representing Hamas. Whether one calling the shots, he definitely was not the one calling the shots, but he was the messenger, quote unquote, and he was the person who was, delivering the message back to Gaza in order to make decisions, whether it with the first hostage release and the past few months trying to have another round and also a ceasefire or ending this war. That's, so it definitely it can possibly have an impact. As you said, the countries that are really mediating this negotiation have criticized it. So obviously they think the same way. The Qatar spoke out pretty much saying, how can you kill someone that's actually, trying to get this deal happen? There are those that consider him as a bit more moderate than his peers, which is not very clear, because at the end of the day, he is was an extreme terrorist.
And meanwhile, State Secretary Blinken is still pushing for a ceasefire, and an analysis piece in El País says there's two camps here. One that thinks Iran is going to do a strong retaliation. The other saying that Iran's not going to go to a war for Hamas. And the first camp is saying that because they take the Iranian statements at face value of this vengeance that they want to do. And then the other is looking at the measured response to Iran to Israel's killing of the IRGC commanders in the consulate in Damascus that we saw in April. Now, let's talk about Germany for a minute. Their foreign minister is saying that Iran bears responsibility to some extent and is calling for the country to exercise restraint. Will Iran heed that call and similar ones? Does it have enough reason to do so?
Can you repeat the question? I just didn't hear the...
Of course, yeah. So Germany is basically saying that Iran bears some of this responsibility, and they're calling for restraint. Does Iran have any reason to heed those calls?
I mean, they definitely have a lot to lose, and I kind of want to agree with some of the things you were saying before, in respect to the fact that I think there is the theory saying Iran will not necessarily, as Iran, come out and attack Israel, but with its proxies, actually, instead of it having, something to lose on the international arena, have, the Houthis in Yemen, or Hezbollah in Lebanon, or Hamas in Gaza, implement some sort of like a powerful attack on Israel, which, from the different fronts, which will be substantial, but measured, not as anything we've seen up until now. Definitely not sending hundreds of missiles and UAVs as we have seen in April. So that is a direction that I hear many senior defense officials here in Israel saying is it may not be a direct Iranian attack on Israel, but actually the proxies themselves.
And Jordan is calling Israel's alleged actions here on Haniyeh in a violation of international law. Can you give us perspective on that?
Well, Israel hasn't yet, or hasn't at all, claimed that they have done it. Obviously, we all assume that that's what happened. But until that is clear, you know there's no way to blame, I think, the country for doing that. But definitely, I think, espionage and is something that every country does up until a certain level. Obviously, the Israeli Mossad has agents in Iran. It's not a secret. TV shows were produced about it, and there is activity there, and you can't be exact by sending a missile from a different, far away. It was a very exact target. So, in a sense, definitely there was something that was possibly in a way against international law, but at the end of the day, also we're talking about a terrorist. So, a terrorist who was involved in the largest attack on Israel since the establishment is someone that I guess Israel treats in a different way.
Well, thank you for contributing to our program. Zvika Klein, the editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post.
Thank you so much.